You saw the thumbnail, you clicked it, you know what you're getting into. Today's video is going to be spooky. Hello lovelies, welcome back. Svenja here. Today I'm going to show you how I turned my innocent, sweet baby boy into a scary looking clown. Are you ready for some serious editing? Grab your coffee, you might want it, and let's get started. Cheers! So, in order to turn him into a creepy clown, the first thing we're going to do is grab a hue saturation layer to turn his face white. And we're going to see the color of his face here is red. It brings up the reds. So, I'm going to go into the saturation. I'm going to drag it down. Yeah, about here. That's good. And then I'm also going to bring up the lightness to get that extra creepy factor, but I don't want it white everywhere, so I'm going to invert it, and I'm going to use a kind of, I want it to not be a super perfect clean look. I want it to be a little ruggedy. Think Joker. So it doesn't have to be perfect. There. I'm going to zoom in Command Plus. There. I'm going to do a few strokes here on his chin and neck as well. There. This is at 100% opacity, and I'm going to switch to a soft round brush, and I'm going to lower the opacity to 30. And I'm going to press X to get a black brush, and I'm just going to go over these edges here because I don't want them super hard. I want them more smooth. So there, that his skin tone shines through. We don't want any on the ear. I press 0. That gives me 100% opacity. Left bracket key to lower my brush. I'm going to take it off the ear, and then I'm going to press 3 on my keyboard, 30% opacity, X on my keyboard to make the brush white. I'm going to get that part here. I'm going to go over this here. I could have used just a soft brush too, but I wanted to start with more of a paintbrush effect. I think that looks pretty good. Now, I'm going to press X on my keyboard, making the brush black, 0 on my keyboard for 100% opacity. I'm going to press Command Plus in order to get rid of the white on the eyes, because I don't want to turn it into a black and white look. I still want to have a realistic effect. Plus it looks a little bit more creepy when the eyes are like here, a little bit bloodshot and red. Ooh. Okay, and this spot here should be white. You can flip back and forth pressing X on the keyboard. It's back to black. I'm gonna bring out his mouth and his lips. We want to keep them red. All right, that is looking pretty good. And now I'm gonna label this HS red. And what did I do with the red? I desaturated it and I lightened it. Now I'm gonna use a curves adjustment layer. I'm clicking again in his face, and I'm gonna drag up, something like that. And I'm gonna press Command I to invert it. And I'm gonna paint this on the forehead, the bridge of the nose, and the chin, and a little bit on his cheeks, just to bring out the white a bit more. I'm gonna press B for my brush, and I'm gonna press 5 on my keyboard for 50% opacity. You know what, I'm gonna press 3. I'm gonna want to build that up, and then X to make it white, because we're having a the curves layer has a black layer mask, so we need a white brush in order to affect anything. So then we're gonna start to paint that on here. I'm gonna make the brush smaller, pressing the left bracket for the bridge of the nose. Basically where light would hit, that's what we're wanting to bring out a bit more. And then that little part on the chin down here. All right, now I'm gonna label this Sea Lift Shadows. When I look at this image, the nose looks a little bit weird. So I want to bring out a bit more contrast. So I'm going to add a brightness contrast layer, and I'm going to bring it up and bring it up and bring it up a bit more. And I think right here it looks okay. I'm going to invert it and then just paint it on with 100% opacity brush on his nose here. And I'm going to turn it on and off so you can see the effect. It looks a lot more, you know, real now, less painted on maybe. And I'm also going to go back in here, and with a 10% opacity brush, I'm going to, in the dark spots, oops, that's a lot, maybe a 3% opacity brush. I'm gonna bring back his skin color because it wouldn't be white right there in these shadow areas. This would still be having a colored tinge to it. So there, this looks a little bit more natural now, I find. Okay, so now we have the white part of the face, and you know what I'm gonna do? I'm also gonna add a little bit more to his hand so it looks like he put the makeup on himself. So I'm gonna press X on my keyboard. I'm at 3% opacity, which is really low, but this is great because then I can just add it on. I'm on the hue saturation layer, so where we desaturated the reds. Here, see, he was playing with rocks on the pavement like it's a dirt road where we were, and his fingers got all white, and you can see he also got some on his shirt there. So we're gonna bring that out a little bit more here. I'm gonna up that to 20% because I want to see some effects, otherwise we'll be here for forever. There, that looks nice and creepy. Okay, moving on. Now we're gonna go to the eyes, and for the eyes I'm going to use a color balance layer. I'm gonna stay in the midtones, and I'm gonna bring out the yellows. Yeah, about here is good. And I'm gonna set the blend mode to linear dodge, and now I'm gonna invert it, Command plus, and I'm gonna paint it on his eyes. Brush at 100% opacity, just press 0 on the keyboard to get there. So here we go. See these creepy glowy eyes? Okay. Gonna press X on my keyboard because we went a little too far over here and here. And I think I'm gonna take it off the pupil. There. Now with a 30% brush, 3 on the keyboard, 30% black, I'm gonna go around the edges just for added dimensionality. Make the eyes pop out a bit more. I'm gonna label that here. That was our brightness contrast layer, nose, and now color balance, CB, eyes. Now we're going into the creepy makeup parts. So for that, I am first gonna set my creepy red layer. That looks pretty creepy to me. And then I'm gonna go into the solid color layer. Oh, it didn't give me the color. Why? Cancel. What happened to my color that I just selected? Why is it gone? There it is. So I'm gonna press Command copy since it didn't work. Okay. No idea what is going on there. Maybe I would have to be on. No, it doesn't work either. If you know, let me know in the comments why this isn't working. That's perfect. Photoshop isn't doing what I want it to. So solid color layer. We're gonna, in here, paste our red tone, and then we're gonna click Command I. I'm gonna start painting on the nose. I'm gonna make the brush bigger. B for brush, B, D for brush. Now we're reset. The brush is back to normal. We're at 30% opacity, and I find that's okay for now. All right, so now we're gonna paint on this half circle, and I'm gonna build it up with my brush strokes here. Now you see, this is a solid color layer. So what we have to do is play with our blend modes. Now dissolve won't work, darken would work, multiply. I'm just gonna run through them and see which ones I like the most. So the light ones, they won't work. We don't want Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer. We want Oh, I like that one. Hard light. Yeah. And those here, they don't work either. I liked hard light the best, so we're gonna stick with hard light for this one. So I have the nose now, and I'm also going over his lips with this color, making my brush smaller, pressing the left bracket key. And I'm just gonna paint that on here. There. Red lips. Maybe we're gonna even take some of this off here. X. Like so. Yeah, I kind of like that one better. It looks a little more unhinged. And we're gonna also go in his eyes and make that, oops, black, haha. We wanna have a white brush. I'm gonna go to 10% opacity, one on the keyboard. And yeah, there we go, making that red too. So we have the nose, lips are done. Now we're gonna do the cheeks. So I added just a touch on the cheeks. So I'm gonna make my brush, using the right bracket key to make the brush bigger. And I wanna make sure that the brush has 0% hardness on it. And opacity is set to 10. That might be too much. No, this is okay. So I tapped once, I tapped twice, I tapped once, I tapped twice. I don't really want to do too much. I can always build this up, but I'm gonna label this now CF for color fill, lips, cheeks, nose. We started with a nose, so we should label it nose first. Don't really have to, but oh gosh. I'm overcomplicating matters. Now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna duplicate that layer, and we're gonna get rid of that layer mask. Command delete resets it. And now we're gonna paint on the creepy eye makeup. So I'm gonna start at a 10% opacity brush and just starting like that, making the brush a bit smaller, and then just building it up, painting it on like so. Okay, and now we have to go down to over the cheeks and around. It's okay if you mess this part up, because you can always come back with a black brush at 100% opacity, and if you mess it up, you can clean it up. That's what I meant to say. But see, this is coming along nicely. I don't think I'm gonna clean anything up because this doesn't have to be perfect. Now we're gonna do the same thing on the other side. We're gonna go down here and then nicely over the cheeks and around. It was funny the way this image came to be. I hadn't planned for this. It was just a really spontaneous thing. Yesterday, Henrik was sitting on the couch with a red baseball cap on, and my brain went like this. Oh, red and round. Oh, clown's nose. Oh, Halloween, spooky clown. I could turn Henrik into a spooky clown. And then I had to Google the scariest clown, because I'm not a horror flick person, and I cannot watch these things. I have a very vivid imagination, and if I watched a film like that, I would never sleep again in my life, like ever. No kidding. So I Googled, what is the scariest clown? And up came Pennywise, or It, if that's the way you pronounce it. It. No idea. I will never watch this movie ever in my life. Because I value my sanity and my sleep. So, and there we are. This is really creepy already. I love it. So, next thing that we're going to do is we can add a dodge burn kind of layer. So we're going to go here, click a new layer, and then we're going to press Shift F5. This brings up the content aware fill menu, and you might be on content aware. I don't know why that's grayed out right now. Oh yeah, probably because I'm on a blank layer. But yeah, set it to 50% gray. Click OK. Now everything turns gray. Not to worry, you're gonna set this to overlay. So BD, I wanna have a reset brush. I want it black, and I'm gonna use 3% opacity. So you type in 03, not 303 on your keyboard to get 3%. Then I'm going to zoom in, and now I'm going to go over his eye area. I'm going to darken it with broad strokes. Now making my brush smaller, left bracket key, to bring out like here. See the shadow, it's already coming out. And now with a smaller brush, I'm just playing around here to make his eyes a little bit more set back. And then I'm gonna darken here as well, because that always looks like creepy and Dracula. How do you say that in English? Dracula. That's how I would say it in German. Dracula. There. And we can also bring out his nose a bit. I feel like it lost a bit of the shape. So we're darkening this part here and here. Maybe even here. Yeah, that looks okay. Brush a bit bigger. And then X on the brush. This brings up the whites. So we're gonna add some highlights, like right here. And with 3% opacity, you really have to build it up, which is really nice because not every brush stroke matters that much. You have a bit more lenience. And I'm gonna also make the bridge of the nose pop a bit more, maybe here, and then the chin. Okay, and I might make these parts a bit darker, so X here, here, but mostly over here with the eye area. Okay, but I don't want to have this on his eye whites. I'm gonna have a white brush and I'm gonna maybe bring out some of the white here, because that got a little too dark. If it's glowing, the creepier the better. So there. Let's zoom out. Let's see what that layer did. Ooh, it made it even more evil. So this I'm just gonna call DB for dodge and burn. Gonna bring them all together. So I'm on the first layer, pressing Shift key, going into the last layer, highlights them all. Then I'm gonna press Command G on my keyboard, which groups these layers. I'm gonna label this face. Now, off and on, off and on. There we go. This looks really good. I'm really happy with this. Now I'm gonna zoom out and I have a red balloon here. Now I can never, for some reason, drag it over. So I have to duplicate my layer into the Halloween creepy clown. I have to be okay with it. Let's do it. Yeah, looks okay. Looks okay. So now I have to position that balloon where I would want it. Can always adjust the angle a bit, but I kind of like the way it, like this, so it, like he's running, so the balloon would kind of like tag behind him, and this here works really well. So I'm gonna click OK, and then I'm gonna add a layer mask, Command plus, to get rid of this part. B for brush, X for black, 0 for 100% opacity, and we're gonna take this part here off. All right. We should also probably make sure that this here is somewhat blurred. So we're gonna take the lasso tool, and I have set mine, that is not where it's usually set. Usually it's at 17 pixels. That's just where I have set mine to. Don't ask me why, I don't know. So we're gonna do this here, and we're on the actual layer here. So only this part here should be affected. Filter, blur, Gaussian blur. No, we don't want to make it disappear, but I think maybe this is okay. 3.5%. Okay. And now if we zoom in, Command plus, you see it tapered off here because it's feathered. But I'm going to make that even more. Command D to get rid of this. I'm going to take a black brush at B for brush, 5 for 50% opacity, and we're going to make the brush big. Right bracket key. Do you see it grow? Here it is. And now we're going to, oops, what's happening? Oh, you know what happened? Svenja made a mistake. we are going to have to convert this to a smart object first. Convert to smart object. Now that means we lost the hand edit. That's okay, because we can redo that quickly. That is back. All right, there we go. All right, now we're gonna go click on this layer mask and we're gonna make the selection again, filter, Gaussian blur, we want the exact same one. I'm gonna click OK. And now we have it right here. Beautiful. Now we're gonna take our brush, B for brush, 5 for 50%, X for black. And, or you know what, we can do different. We're gonna have the brush small, gonna do 20% opacity, 2 for 20%. And then we're gonna just see it's gonna be a lot more gradual. I want it here. There. That's a much better transition. There's the balloon. There we go. And lastly, we can consider darkening the image. So I'm going to grab a levels layer and I'm going to start to drag the midtones down. Right here looks pretty good, except the darks are getting fairly dark. So I'm going to lift the shadows like so. And I also want to get the sky a little darker. So I'm going to bring down the highlights. I want to get it dark. There, I think that looks pretty good. Now I'm going to mask out Henrik. And I'm gonna click Command I to invert it. And I'm gonna press the Command key and click into my balloon layer. Now, I don't want to have the string brighter because I feel like this should be fairly black, but I will mask out the balloon. There. Command D. So I'm gonna call that level Darken. And I'm going to add some more pops up here in the highlights. So I'm going to grab another levels layer and I'm just going to brighten the highlights. Maybe around here looks good. Going to invert it. Level. B for brush. X to get a wide brush. 10 for 10% opacity. And we're going to start brushing that on, just to add a little bit more dimensionality. Dimensionality. I think that's a word. In the background here, and also here to blend him in a bit more. If there's a few more like highlights here, then he is not standing out that much as being super, super bright. And I just got another idea how I can blend him in a bit better. There, let's see what that did. Wonderful. On the layer where I masked him out with a 10% white brush, which I have right now. I want to talk too fast. I have this white brush and I'm just going to paint on the darkening effect on his highlights here. This will help him blend in a bit better with the background. There. We don't want to go overboard and too much. I'm also going to do that here on his shirt. Just a little. Pressing the space bar brings up the hand tool. There, that looks better. All right, I think this is better. And let's see, the balloon also needs something here. Okay, I am pretty happy with this. We have the darkening, we have the brightening. Command 0 to get a full view, Command minus to make it a little bit smaller. I think it's still too bright, so I'm going to add another levels layer. I'm going to take the highlights and I'm going to bring them down. I might play around with the opacity here. B for brush, D, X for black, and 5 for 50% opacity. Left bracket key to make the brush bigger. I'm going to brighten the balloon a bit more here. Actually, I'm going to get rid of that 30% opacity there. And I'm going to make the brush nice and big now. And start to paint over him a bit more here. Like so. What does that do? Yeah, I like that. we're gonna keep that. Okay, and last but not least, I want to do some sort of color toning to the image. I want to give it a more spooky mood. So I was thinking I'm going to go into a gradient map. We always want to make sure we set it to dither because dither prevents banding. And I was thinking about a spooky-ish kind of greenish hue like this one here. And this obviously is too bright. So I'm going to set it to 40% opacity. This is, now you can see through the image, but we don't want to keep normal blend mode. We want to quickly go through them. That would be fun. I really like Darken. Multiply is good too, but I like the darkening effect a bit more. Color burn is too green. And the lightning modes, I don't think they're going to work here. And contrast modes too. And those are just weird. The red looked creepy. Here, creepy. I'm gonna go with Darken. And I'm also going to add a curves layer. I'm gonna go into the blues. I'm just gonna click here in the middle and I'm gonna drag it up ever so slightly. This gives the entire image a little blue tint. Then I'm going in the reds and I'm gonna drag it down. This adds a cyan tint. So now we have this here. So I'm gonna just group these together. So I'm just gonna call this GM for gradient map green. And then C for curves, blue, cyan, PC. Highlighting them both, Command G to group them together, and I'm gonna call this toning. So let's see what this did. Without it, with it just adds this extra layer of horror by taking out more of the yellow ones. Okay, however, I will add a layer mask to this and bring back the red. I feel like the red was more vibrant without the toning on the balloons, so I want to keep that. All right, this is my Halloween edit. I hope you liked it. Hey, you made it to the end. You were not creeped out by the result that we got. Wonderful, high five to you. Thanks so much for watching. Now you know how to turn an innocent looking child or adult, or just an adult, we don't look so innocent anymore, right? into a scary clown. I hope you found this helpful, and if you did, please give me a like, thumbs up, that's the same thing, subscribe, and leave me a comment. I would love that very, very much. So take care. Oh no, we forgot half of it. I hope you have a great Halloween with lots of candy. I will see you again next week with a non-spooky tutorial and with normal hair. Bye-bye.